Good evening. Good evening, brothers and sisters, and those who are watching our program from all across this great land. I am John Edmerson, the Associate Minister of the Figueroa Church of Christ, and this is my lovely wife, Felicia, and she's our co-host, and we're going to serve in our presentation tonight by guiding our discussion. We have a passion for family ministry with 5 children who are staying all across this great land. We have not only believed in family, but we've tried to model that as best we could. And we certainly haven't made high marks in every area, but we're striving. We're students. I want to invite you to come visit us at the Figueroa congregation. We're currently, our Bible class is at 9. Our worship service is at 10 o'clock a.m. We're at 455 West 57th Street, right on the corner of Figueroa and 57th. Our zip code's 90037. And again, we invite you to come and to worship with us. At our congregation, we firmly believe in the family. We firmly believe in an approach where if you come, you're going to become a better father, a better husband, a better mother, a better wife, and a better young person. So again, we want to welcome you on this morning. Sweetie, is there anything that you'd like to say on this evening?
I am just excited about the topic of parenting adult children. This is foreign territory for me, so I can't wait to hear some of the hear from some of the people that I esteem. I love their children, so let's get to it.
All right. So just before we get to it, I want to encourage you to ask us a question, whatever medium that you're watching our program this evening. In the chat section, you can just simply put your question there, and it should pull up on our screen, and we should be able to answer you real time. I already see one person, Drea, that said good evening, and we're so glad to have you, Drea, and we want to welcome others as well to say hello. Let us know where you're saying hello from, and especially to those of our family members at the Figueroa congregation, give us a shout out on tonight. All right, well, let's go ahead and let's bring in our guests for this evening. And this is Vinvent and Kathleen Hawkins. So here we go. All right, there they are. Hey, brother, sister Hawkins.
All right, now, good evening to each and every one of you.
Amen. We're so elated to have you both. On our program tonight. I've been a minister in the LA area since as far back as 1990. So I've been following you in your development, your growth, the growth of your children, all of these years. And so now when we wanted to look at such an important topic, Felicia and I could not have asked for a better couple to interview than you. So again, we're glad to have you, and we'll actually let you begin tonight by just talking a little bit about who you are and your family.
All right. First of all, we just want to say together, good evening, and thank both of you for considering us to be a part of this. We're very appreciative, and John, we are just blessed to have both you and your wife with us at the Figueroa congregation. You guys are a blessing. And you are blessing us, and we really appreciate that.
Just happy to be here, and looking forward to seeing what we can do to help couples and families with this very important topic.
We've been married now for 40 plus years. It'll be 41 in August 14th of this year. We've been blessed to have 4 beautiful adult children. And 11 grandbabies.
Yes.
Wow.
11 grandbabies. And of course, we've been blessed to have our mother-in-law here with us now. And Kat is doing an excellent job in caring for her mom. And we are just blessed by God and just want to be a blessing to others as we spend the remainder of our time here on this planet.
Amen.
All right. Fantastic. Now, Sister Hawkins, does Brother Hawkins have a little cheat sheet in front of him? He rattled off that date so fast. So did you slip that to him real quick?
No, it's been ingrained. And he
No, she wants to say it's been trained into him.
Oh,
so yeah, he knows not to book too many gospel meetings and all those types of things right during our anniversary. So
all right. Great. Okay, well, let's go ahead and let's pull up the information that we're going to use tonight, parenting adult children. And here's our introduction that we're going to share with you. If my face gets a little close to the camera, I'm trying to read. So you'll have to forgive me. I do have some new glasses on, but they didn't help that much. So here we go. The Hawkins have 4 children and have served in the ministry with these 4 children.
Mhm.
They have rich insight on having parented multiple children up to adulthood. Not only that, but we will see how they keep such good how they keep such good
I'll help you out there. Deportment.
okay, thank you. While managing the care of children and managing the care of their aged parents. So from pediatrics to geriatrics, they have managed care. Sorry about that, Felicia.
Okay.
She's been trying to work with me on my preparation. So all right. So let's get started. How we laid it out is that we have 10 questions that we came up with, Felicia and I. I came up with 5. She came up with 5, and we've kind of woven them together. So hopefully tonight we'll have a good, rich tapestry of subjects to teach on. For those who are viewing tonight, if there's something you'd like to touch on and maybe a follow-up subject, then just put that in the chat, and we'll do our best to work that into our conversation. Our session is entitled to last about 55 minutes, so we won't be able to touch on everything, I'm sure, but we'll certainly do the best that we can. All right, so let's get started with the first question. The first has to do with care. What does it mean when your children transition to adulthood? So as you think about their progress, particularly from puberty, adolescence, high school, then into college, what did that mean? What were some of the thoughts that were going through your head as you started to see facial hair and shoulders and hips broadening and all that good stuff? So what did you think?
Kathleen, hon, go ahead.
I think when I think back to that, I'm thinking, boy, they're about to move into a different stage of life. Did we do okay with the things that we were trying to teach them? And at one point, just because of my nursing background, at one point, just kind of learning about all the different stages, life development that Eric Erickson kind of put out there. If you look at children in these different stages, you can kind of learn a little bit more psychologically what's going on with their minds, what are the challenges of each stage. And so I think that helped even in the younger stages when we were discussing discipline and things like that.
Right.
So from 2 years on up, but it was just kind of like, wow, we're watching them grow. We're watching them go through these stages, and will they be accountable as they approach adulthood?
I'd like to add a bit to that. It's a journey. It's a journey of learning and experience, and of course, there were moments when we were like, "Wow, they're growing up, and they are moving from one stage to the next," and we was just blessed, to work together as a partnership in raising them through these difficult phases of their lives, being present and encouraging them and in helping them and making it enjoyable. That was one of the things we tried to focus on with 4 children. Of course, Kat is a master of order and organization and keeping the chaos together. And so, it was enjoyable. We look back now and man, it's like, wow, they're all gone, And then you have moments and you go, wow, they're really gone. So, so it's been a joy. It really has been, and ups and downs, the ebb and flow, the adjustments. I know as a father, I've had to make a number of adjustments about my philosophy of parenting, for which we get from our families of origin, And so I've often thought about my dad and my mom, how they, raised my sister and I and their siblings, my siblings, and so it's been a joy. It really has been.
Would you say that the education that you both gained, that was instrumental in how you went about thinking about the development of your children? And would you suggest that people who are parents, want to be parents, pursue learning and information as a means to help inform their choices?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think there are two components. The informal education, you get that from your family. You learn from your family constellations, your grandparents, your parents, and then there is this formal aspect. We both have been in education, and that's been a blessing on a developmental level to understand the phases, lifespan development, as Kat has mentioned, and really having a broader perspective about how to go about, these adjusting to each of these phases really help both of us. And so we collaborated a lot, and even now, Kathleen is still, and she's parenting me now. So
Okay. All right. Okay,
Uh,
sweetie, is there
and just to-
anything you want to add there, sweetie?
Oh, I think
yeah. Oh, what'd you
Sorry.
say?
something.
Yes, I was thinking the formal education and the secular, but then the Bible was
Mhm.
like our main
Mhm.
curriculum,
Okay.
because you don't really, you're learning as you go. So it was on the job training, definitely on the job training for us, and that the scriptures and the
Mhm.
Bible was our basis.
And as a matter of fact, John, faith literally is the bedrock. That's fundamental. And even with that, we ran, the informal learning and the formal learning through that filter. The Word of God filters all of that, because you get a lot of stuff from a lot of different places. But at the
Right.
end, we have to ask, the Father and the Holy Spirit and the Word to guide us through this process.
Right. Right. I know that one of the discussions that I'm having with parents that are being challenged is their adult children going back and thinking about some of this training that took place. On one hand, uh, people today want to be so protective of their value system and how they think about things. Whereas Christian parents, I think the responsibility for us is to do what the Bible says in Proverbs 22:6, to train up a child. You don't have any values, as you're coming out of the womb. What values you do have are values that we pour into, that we introduce into you. My thinking was that that's where we begin, and that as you grow, eventually you're going to embrace those, retreat from them. As you're becoming an adult, you'll have your own. So is that kind of how you did it, or were you more like some of the parents we see today, who just kind of let their kids decide what they believe and what they're going to do from as early as 7, 8, 9, and 10? Can you give us some insight there?
I think we instilled values, and we spent time. We had family night weekly, and if we happened to miss it because of my work schedule, that really disturbed the young children. But I believe that we taught them who they were as people and humans, And yes, there was a little leeway for decision making, but I don't think we took just this laid back, I'm just going to watch and see what they do or who they feel like they want to become. So we spent a lot of time with self-identity, male versus female. This is who you are. This is how you were born. And so I think we had some guidance. I believe we had pretty much some guidance there. And then we may get to that question later, but jokingly, Vincent always, he ingrained in the kids, the children, that 18 is it. 18, boy, that's it. This is it for you guys. And that used to get to me, because I'm like, well, what are they going to do? It's just a little 18-year-old standing there, with their suitcase. They got to leave or whatever. But we laughed about it. We talked about it. It was the launching years. And so it's almost like there's another one lining up to go. But up until that time, I feel like we provided a lot of guidance, positive guidance.
Yeah, the objective was to model literally our faith in their presence, as best we could without being restricted, by the fellowship. In other words, allowing latitude for them to explore, but also having principles, values, standards, and kind of being clear on that. Very early in their development, there were rules. And then as they begin to get a little older, the rules were relaxed to a large degree, but they were value-based. They knew, when they left the house, who they were and whose they were and what was expected. And then we also created an environment for failure. No family is perfect. And if they can't fail here and come through and progress, then I don't think we've done a good job. But that 18 thing, yeah, I come from a different family of origin. Kathleen is different. She comes from a strong matriarchal background. I come from a strong patriarchal background. So there was some conflict there. But I always teased her. Listen, we raised our children. This is me. We raised our children to raise up out of here.
Right.
But our job was to be on the front line so that they would be successful. They would have a model to look at, and they could get out in this world and walk in their faith and pursue their careers. And we would support them and encourage them and do everything that we possibly could. So we laugh about that. But we had 4 of them, and so I have OCD anyway, and I'm a pragmatic. I need to know what we're doing at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and stand here, be over here, so I can keep up with everything. Kathleen's a little different. She can multitask. She can do 1,000 things at one time. That's not me.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, so let's go to the next question. What were some of the emotions? Fee, I'm going to come to you in just a moment with this. Maybe you can expound a little bit. What were some of the emotions you felt when your first child transitioned into adulthood? If you can kind of tell us what you meant there, Fee.
Well, for one, how did you know that they were going to, we talk about transitioning to adulthood, but what was the mark that signified that they were adults? Because we like to say give numbers, but how did they show that they were adults and that they were going to be okay?
That's a good question. And all 4 of them went away to college.
Okay.
And we'll probably touch on that as well. But that part was different for me, because those years leading up to it, you're there, you're watching, they're coming in, you can watch where they are. But when our daughter, who went away first to college, that they're adults when you can see them making progress in whatever endeavor that they're attempting. So whether it's college, the service, military, or just going to a job or what have you, but they're able to do that and maintain their finances and actually show that they're not, falling on their faces.
Mm-hmm.
So they're taking on adulthood responsibilities, and they're being successful at it.
And for me, there was some apprehension, probably more on my side, because I wanted to control them. And then as they, begin to move into early adulthood, I began to understand that they had learned enough to walk confidently in their person, which kind of lessens my anxiety now, because Charity was the girl, the only girl that I have, that we have. I kind of wanted to keep the reins on her. It's different. It's different, but she was confident. She had a good, strong mind. She had a good personality. She was very faith-centered, as all of the children were, at least in our environment. And then when they got out, we saw that what was planted in them began to blossom. And so we just simply began to help them manage that. Once they leave the house, the control mechanism is minimized, especially for males. But Kathleen has always had a way of keeping the umbilical cord somewhere near, so she can. And I think they probably were more fearful of her than they were of me. But we partnered with that. Out of my masculinity and her femininity, we worked that thing out to adjust to the individual personalities that we've had. And then you begin to see, as they get older, who they really start looking like. And I look back now, and I just think Charity and I are two peas in a pod. I really do. Now, those boys, they have their mother's tenderness. They have their mother's personality. But I think they all have my tenacity, my
combination,
my confidence, and then of course I've always taught my sons, we're Hawkins. We don't make excuses. We make plans. And so we kind of instill that in them, and it's been a joy to watch them grow up and to have their families. It's like, wow. We sit down and we say, man, we did this. And I'm looking at Kat and she's looking at me. I asked her one day, where you get all these babies from?
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I'm excited again to be a part of launching the first podcast for the Figueroa Church of Christ. LA Family Life is the name, and every week during the second quarter, join us, and we're going to tackle different topics. On tonight, we have Vinvent and Kathleen Hawkins, as they are working us through the process of rearing adult children. Let me do one follow-up. The follow-up is Felicia and I, our number 5 went off to school to Oklahoma Christian. He's going to be a junior this fall. And I really think I'm still grieving. I don't think Felicia's grieving, but I think I am. How long is that going to last? How long am I going to be sad walking around with my lip poked out because I don't have my kids around me anymore? So please give me some guidance there.
Yours is a little, all of our children were here in California when they went to college. And each, I can remember dropping each one off at their various universities, but we were able to see them. We still got to see them on Sundays. They all made their way back, to the house of the Lord to worship. So, but I can sort of sense a little bit of what you're feeling because they're no longer here at the house. Right. So that part was a bit different because you're going, down the hall. There's the empty room again, and our number 5, which is Chester. Not number 5. Our number 4.
Look out now.
There's something I don't know here.
Yeah.
I told you it's all coming out tonight.
Our number 4, which is Chester. He went locally to Loyola Marymount. Of course, that was our baby. And I had some of those feelings that you're feeling as well, but like I said, we would see them at worship. We would pick them up on Sundays, literally, because none of them really had cars in college. So that's a whole nother story. But and with him, they've never come back home to live. So I can sense what you're feeling, but you'll soon get over that, especially when they're a senior and they're making strides, and then they're going out into the world of employment and, signing on with some place to work. You just kind of step back and you thank God. You give a lot of thanks. And, continue. I know you talk with your children a lot, so continue to keep those doors of communication open, and that strengthens your relationship. But having that baby at home, though, those days are gone. So you learn to go with the flow.
Right.
My take on that, John, is you just have to manage it. I don't think it ever really goes away. I only have one daughter. I loved her dearly then, and I love her dearly now. So you manage that anxiety as best you can. Now, Kat didn't tell you that when she dropped the kids off, she wanted to stay at the school with the kids all day. Now I stayed a little longer with Charity because that was my girl. But when it came to those boys, dropped their stuff off and said, holla. But we have a good relationship. I always talk with them. I always checked in on them. We made ourselves available, accessible, and just assured the process. And so I had to adjust a lot of my parenting approach. My dad was military, Navy guy. And so structure was important. And sometimes structure will get in the way of relationships. And when I became more person-centered, and this was really a part of my educational side, and then, of course, having some good brothers around me, guys like Kenwood, John Green, Jesse Trice, brother and sister Johnson. We had some families around us that really helped mold my thinking and my approach to my family, as well as my relationship with my wife. And so, I thank God for the journey and for the people God placed in my life to help me. And then for a wife that was able to work and adjust with me in this process. And so I feel you. That's like my oldest boy right now. Our oldest boy, rather, Christopher, is in Korea. Something about the Orient he loves. I just thought maybe he's trying to get away from us, but he loves his mother dearly. He loves me, and we love him, and he's constantly on my mind. We talk, we try to stay in contact, and we do that with all the kids, and of course they are more prone to talk with their mother than with me, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay. I understand psychologically why that's so. She has more words in her vocabulary than I do.
Right. All right. Anything, sweetie, that you want to add there?
Oh,
did that touch on what you were asking about the emotions?
yeah.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. Okay. All right. So let's push on. Let's see here. Give me just a moment. All right. So let's look at Q3. What did you do differently with your own adult children's transition that may have been different from your transition? So what did you do differently?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, my transition, I think, and then Vincent mentioned it also with his parents, but this answer will come from the perspective of me coming from a single parent household. So it was my mom. She raised us 5 single-handedly. So when I left home, it was to go to college. So I was 17. And pretty much a lot of that I had to, do the paperwork and kind of help my mom understand what was going on. I'm going away to college, that type of thing. So I had a more involved with my transition, just to kind of help her, because she was working 2 jobs. And with our children, I feel like we were right in there helping with the college applications and this and that. So it was a little different because of my background and just knowing how to help them move along. So it's more teaching, more talking. Whereas I don't think my mom, she gave me just, information as far as what she knew, how to help me move on. I tried to be worried when Vincent was ready to take me from her at the age of 24. I was worried about her because it was just her and I at home. And, I'm her baby. So I'm like, are you going to be okay if I leave you? And she said, yeah, you have to go on and live your life. And she still was trying to figure out, who is this Vincent Hawkins? Where did he come from?
Look here, Doc, truth be told, my mother-in-law couldn't wait to get rid of this gal, boy. And look here, every now and then I tell her that you could have her back. I need a break.
Yeah, because when we decided to get married, she said, he's all yours. She's all yours now. Right. But I think it was just a little different with our children and how my transition took place.
For me, coming from, Texas, Southern values, I informed my dad of what was on my mind. And he simply, validated it. I don't think he was overly excited about my direction because it wasn't, at that time, it wasn't faith-centered at all. I had other things on my mind. But nonetheless, there was this mutual respect for family, mutual respect for our faith. And I kept those things, and I always respected them and was able to go home if I needed to. And I kept the door open. And so we left on good terms, healthy terms. And eventually, believe it or not, and this is a part of our narrative, we had to go home and get my mom and dad. And my mom and dad stayed with Kat and I, and also with my sister May. Mm-hmm. And Kat was there to help facilitate the care of my mom, as well as my dad. And so all of that played into, this whole business of parenting, even as we begin to launch our children. We did it out of the context of what our parents did to us. Was it perfect? Of course not. But it was healthy enough to provide them with an environment so that they can be, responsible people and move towards some level of success in their families as well. And so it was a learning curve, but it was a good transition, and I could always go back home and see my mom and dad. Kat could do the same with her family. And so it's been a good ride.
Wonderful, wonderful. Looks like we have brother and sister Choctaw from Figueroa giving us a shout out. And looks like Sister Andrea Major, she says, I cried the first 2 weeks when I first dropped my daughter off at Southwestern College. Oh. I started to let her call me when she needed, and I let her use her wings. It's hard. So in other words, she let her kind of fly, do her thing. So thank you. Thank you very, very much. All right. So let's go back to the questions and see how much further we can get. Give me just a moment. Okay. All right. So now looks like I see one of your children wanting to get in on the action tonight. Maybe that's Charity, but Charity, it's saying that your devices are not connected. So if you can work that out with your mic and your and you're being able to hear us, we'd love to hear from you on tonight. All right. So were there different sets of rules for your daughter than for your sons? If there were, how did you justify those differences?
Yes, and yes.
So what differences were there and how did you justify them?
She's my only daughter. She's a female. I'm her father. I have to protect her. but she had a lot of latitude with me. And then she out of all the children, I see myself in her. I really do. And I appreciate that, and I see her strong-willed, and her focus, and I have that as well. Sometimes to my detriment, but she's managed hers much better than mine, so I have learned from her as well. And then I couldn't compete with her after she got grown. I just started saying, hey man, you need to adjust. And I made the adjustments, because I loved her. But there were different rules. I was more concerned about her as a female, and that's just my upbringing. The boys are boys. They all had rules and regulations, and they were never really rebellious. At least to my knowledge.
Right. Okay, all right. Sister Hawkins, how did you feel about seeing the difference there between the parenting decisions? Is that something that you supported? Well, I'm sure you supported it, but did you see the need for maybe a little more rope with the boys than charity, or what was your thinking there?
I'm laughing because the woman walked down the hall with a belt around her neck. Doc. She was the drill sergeant, man. I thought she was tougher than me.
Well, yeah, because I worked the night shift as a nurse, so I was trying to get my sleep during the day and different things. And Vincent was very busy with ministry, so sometimes I would just I'd put the belt around my neck and just kind of walk through and check things out, see if everybody's behaving, and they do pretty well. Charlton would spot me from a distance, and he'd make sure he straightened up right away. But
hey, John and Felicia, she had that belt on around her neck and looked at me one day. I said, "Oh my Lord!" I said, "Lord."
I didn't have to really use it. I didn't have to use it much on them. The comb, I would have a comb, especially in church. But I think for charity, I feel like I was just really watching out for her. Even during the teen years, then they're going to the youth conferences and things like that. It was like always watching for her protection. And then when the young guys started coming around, they'd spend time with us. Specifically, I remember a young man that rode with us to a church picnic. And I think he must have been just frightened in the car. I was trying to make him feel that, you're welcome to come along with our family and what have you. But just those types of things. I don't remember. I don't recall overbearing with the boys. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think back. Yeah, they all they selected, good young women. But in high school, it was just something about dating and that type of thing. In high school, we didn't allow it because we didn't really see a need for it. It just seemed like it would be a distraction.
I'm your girlfriend. I'm your boyfriend. How about that?
Right.
We told them whatever you need to talk about. Talk about it while you're at school, because you're not going to be, on the phone all evening and blah, blah, blah. So I think maybe it was me. I wanted to have that control where we didn't have somebody distracting them and throwing them off course.
One of the things that touched my heart, and I got to share this, it was Chester who asked us if he can have a girlfriend.
Right.
Wow.
It's like, man, it's like, wow.
How old was he?
15, 16.
And I just know I might have said, go see your mother.
Yeah. And we had a good discussion about what's the need, what's the purpose. Yeah. And
we eventually shared with him, we felt that it wasn't the time right now. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And he respected that. At least, in our presence. That doesn't mean he didn't talk to any of the girls. That's to be expected.
Right.
But in terms of actually having a girlfriend, and boy, that really touched my heart. And I won't forget that about that.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. So beautiful. Mm-hmm. Anything, sweetie, you want to add there?
So they establish good communication. So I mean,
Yeah.
afraid to talk about things.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a key concept. Matter of fact, there was a book by Norman Wright, I believe, and that was a book that we used in a lot of marriage retreats. It said the title of the book said communication, the key to your marriage.
Correct.
So
All right, so that's Norman Wright.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say this. I had to learn how to talk with my boys. And this is on the backdrop of my being raised. There were a lot of subjects that, you know, young boys needed to have. And my dad did a good job as best he could in areas like that. And I noticed when it came my turn, I had to reference, you know, brothers around me who had done the same thing, had to go to the same thing. But it was really Kat, being the nurse that she is. I mean, she had all the language, the medical terms, and all of that stuff. She would pass out pamphlets. You know, she had a pamphlet for me one time. You know, and it just goes to show that there will be areas for which we as men are just not ready to deal with, you know, and no fault of ours necessarily. I think we can learn. We have to educate ourselves in a lot of areas, but sometimes you don't get what you really need sometimes from your parents, and it's not their fault. They can only give you what they know, the best they know how. My parents were great people, loving people, but when it came to, you know, the actual instructive type of things, you know, they did their best. But Kat was very good at that, and I supported that, and eventually began to have discussions based upon their growth and development in terms of relationships, especially you know, as young men. And now look at them, I'm going, man, you know, I mean, did
Yeah,
this
but
come
talk to us a little bit about that. So are they married? Do they have kids?
Yeah.
all with the exception of Christopher.
Okay.
Christopher is still single.
He's the one that lives in South Korea.
Yeah, and
He's an English teacher.
I've been trying to help him on a number of levels to find, you know. Sometimes you got to help the children find what they need, you know. But I think he's in pursuit of it, you know. It appeared to be a natural for Charlton and a natural for Chester. Of course, we never tried to meddle in their choices. We just kept a close eye on it. I will say this much: I remember when Courtney and Chester had begun to look at each other. I went over and I think I might have told. I don't know if I told Mr. Courtney. I said, "Have you considered the Hawkins stock or something like that?"
Right. Right.
And that kind of dropped. And I think with Brianna, because of the fellowship relationship they had in Normandy, they just began to click, and it just happened organically, you know. And we partnered with them in it, and there was some challenging areas, you know, and you're going to have that, and we worked through those. And of course, especially when it came to my daughter, you know, my issues I had to work through when I realized that she was just like me. You know, strong-willed, and she made her choice. And eventually, you know, I came around because you want to control. It's natural for us to want to control. Even when they leave our homes, we want to control, and we can't do that.
Right.
So we try to manage, you know, our relationship with our kids, respect the, you know, positions, and respect their boundaries as well as ours. But yeah. This is good. This is therapeutic for me. I'm feeling better already.
Well, you know, that control, it comes from a place of concern.
Yeah, exactly.
And I hope that those young adults that are listening to the broadcast, that they will know that no parent gets up in the morning wanting to worry about your life in the same way that they're worrying about their own.
Yeah.
But we do have some concerns, and any any perceived control is meant to try to save you or steer you away, from some negative outcome. But as Brother Hawkins mentioned, we have to conclude that the decision and the mistake is yours to own.
Exactly.
And I want to be there to help pick you up once you've fallen or once you've skinned your knee. But I can't control you from steering off the track if that's what you're determined to do.
Right.
And parents, I think, have to to own that. And just like you said, Brother Hawkins, just a lot of great things tonight, that Charity was much like you, and you had to allow her to do her.
Bingo.
And you all have poured enough into all of your children. And you believe what the Bible says, that if they have left that teaching, left that training, that they're going to come back to it. And,
Exactly.
and you just have to know that. Well, good. Anything you want to add, sweetie?
No, Brother Hawkins was saying that Charity is most like him. She is. I know she's true to her name for sure.
Yes.
You mean the Hawkins part?
The Charity part.
Right.
Yeah.
Charity, true to Charity. Her name Charity Love.
Yes. Oh,
Right,
yes.
right.
Very loving.
All right. So let's go. We actually have about 10 more minutes. So we're on the home stretch with these questions. So let's look at how do you handle disagreements with your adult children? How do you handle disagreements with them?
You mean them between each other or them with us?
Fee, what do you think? I'm thinking between you and Brother Hawkins and then them, and it could be maybe a decision that they're making, maybe in their personal life, and you don't think they should be making it. You don't think they should be doing it. You can't put them over your knee anymore and give them a spank. So how do you interact with them when maybe you can kind of see, oh, okay, well, do I need to intervene, or do I just sit back, or how do you handle disagreements with them?
I think our approach is kind of like the Father in Luke 15. Each child will have their own individual desires. For instance, all four of the children should have gone to Pepperdine. That was a foregone conclusion. Christopher followed suit, Charity followed suit, but the Charlton went to Azusa Pacific, and Chester went to Loyola Marymount. So, I just made the adjustment. I had to look at the bigger picture. The objective is to get an education, but when you're a control freak like I am, you want them to go where you go and do what you do. And the same thing with our faith. I decided very early after I had that even in their faith, I wanted their faith to be their faith as they understood it. We model faith to a large degree, but then we move from this type of religious structure to a relationship. And I wanted them to experience Jesus in a way that allows that faith to be developed. And it doesn't have to look like mine, and that was a journey, and so they have differences of opinion on a lot of levels, socially, culturally, politically, theologically, and so forth, and I look back over my growth and development, and Kathleen looked back over hers, and we have to just accept and make adjustments. Now, in issues of morality, issues of value, issues of ethics, when we have an opportunity to see if those things are being compromised, then we know how to assert. My thing is, son, what you doing? When I call my sons, when we talk, three things pop up. Man, how you doing? How's the family? And how's your career? And then, son, how's your faith? Where are you spiritually? Those are the three things I always assess. And I do that with men around me because I think those things are vital. But in differences, I had to learn some things from them because they thought differently. And look, I look back, you know, and I said, you know what? It was nothing wrong with that. I just couldn't see it.
Right.
You know.
Right. Wonderful, wonderful. Anything you want to add on that, sweetie?
No, again, that communication and just and giving them the leeway to, like I said, they're adults, so you give them and you trust them enough to where they
Right.
can they know what's best for them, and you just, like I said, you, if you're at odds, you're free to voice those opinions.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You're able to discuss it.
That they're going to make the best decision.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. All right. Well, we have a few minutes left. This time has just flown by. So let's spend a little time looking at this next step, which we spent quite a bit of time talking about those early years. Now
Mhm.
let's look at some of the other transitions that families go through. What do you think, or rather, what would you like for your children to understand? What would you like for them to learn from having managed and managing care of your aged mother there, Sister Hawkins? What, now that you're kind of in that space,
Mhm.
what have you learned? What would you like for them to learn about that? Is there anything maybe that you'd like for them to know?
Yes, that when you get to this stage, most, because we call this the sandwich years. I mean, I'm not rearing children anymore, but I'm in between having adult children and an aged parent. So balance. The word would be balance, and to discuss it. If it gets to the point, because I know there's another question of concern on there. If it gets to the point where Vincent and I need care one day, Lord willing, if we're still living, we'll need some type of care, whether it's in the home or somewhere. But we would want them to see and to understand that it's possible. You communicate with your partner, your husband, your wife, and discuss the care of parents, because they have parents. My children have their in-laws as well. So there's this whole concept of balance, finding balance in life, and knowing and understanding that it can be done. If you get to the point where you can't care for someone, then with all that you have, the abilities that you have, then yes, you would seek the care of some professional, or have them in a facility. But I'm going to use that word balance.
Yeah. I concur, along with, preparation and planning. I look back and I look at my grandparents. My mom and dad took care of their grandparents. They came home and stayed with us until they expired. And then my grandmother, on my mother's side, we had to put her in the facility because of Alzheimer's, and she needed 24/7, 365 care. So there's this reality of looking at what each family does in each generation, and how we are responsible to a large degree for taking care of our people. Now, how that looks, it may vary, but I think proper planning. I even told Kathleen, when I began to see my mother-in-law transition from one phase to another, I knew she would be coming here. Now for me, I put the burden of responsibility on my sons to take care of their mother in my absence. But as far as I'm concerned, I'd like to be independent until I can't. I've told Kathleen, if something ever happens to me and I don't know where I am, just put me in the park with some sunflower seeds and leave me alone. Just come visit me every month with a new bag of sunflower seeds. I'm being facetious, but I don't want to be a burden. And there are things we have to help our children with. For instance, proper planning, financially, life and death realities, directives, long-term care, insurance. We've got to do that, and they're pretty upfront and in tune with that, so that we are not necessarily I don't want to be a great burden, but I don't want to be left out.
Right.
And then knowing my disposition and Charity's disposition, we probably want to, stay handle our own business.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this community idea. I think they saw that and they see that now. I think it's ingrained in them that, family, we're responsible for our family. It's like even now, You know, anybody can come on. You know, our home is like Motel 6. We'll leave the light on. You know, and this is a safe place. This is a secure place as long as we're together. And I believe they'll reproduce that in their families as well.
All right. Well, we want to thank you all for your time tonight. Unfortunately, our time is up. We didn't get to everything, but we appreciate so much your sharing your wisdom. Again, this has been a ministry of the Figueroa Church of Christ in Los Angeles, California. We have this year as our theme, the concept of revival. And each quarter, we're looking at a different focus. And the focus this quarter is the family. And that's the family of God foundationally. And it's also our biological families as well. So we want to thank you for your presence. And we look forward to prayerfully interacting with you again. To those who joined us tonight, we want to welcome you. To those who may see this podcast afterward, we want to welcome you as well to come and see it. So to my lovely co-host Felicia, thank you, sweetie. To brother and sister Hawkins, you delivered tonight. Have a wonderful evening, and we will check with you later. God bless from the Figueroa.
God bless, and thank you for having us. Good night, all.
Bye-bye.
All right. God bless. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.